What is up, guys? Delboy here. I wanted to make my prediction video for Gennady Golovkin versus Saul Canelo Alvarez. This fight takes place on the 16th of September and it's going down at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. To me, it's one of the premier fights in boxing. It is for Gennady Golovkin's IBF, WBA and WBC middleweight titles. Having said that, actually, I don't think the WBC title is actually on the line. Canelo Alvarez and the WBC have an ongoing beef, and doesn't look like that title will be on the line. But regardless of that, I feel this is an excellent fight. I think at the start of 2017, if boxing fans, each had a wish list of top 5 fights they wanted to see, this fight would be on their wish lists. It's one of the best fights in boxing, period. So credit to both guys for making this happen. Credit to both guys for making this happen when it's not too late. And I'm really looking forward to it, I have to say. I'm a big fan of both fighters, but I do, in recent years, I have criticised both fighters quite a lot. But regardless of that, I love watching both of these guys fight. Stylistically, they're appealing on the eye. Knockout power, combination punching, and all-round exciting fighters. But let's see how they match up. Gennady Golovkin, he comes into the ring with a record of 37 wins, 0 defeats, 0 draws, 33 of those 37 wins coming by way of knockout. Canelo Alvarez comes into this fight with a record of 49 wins, 1 defeat, 1 draw, and 34 of those 49 wins coming by way of stoppage. Let's look at Gennady Golovkin first. He is the WBC, the IBF and the WBA middleweight champion. He is recognised as the man at middleweight. His notable wins include Danny Jacobs, David Lemieux, Daniel Gill, Martin Murray, and Gabriel Rosado. He's got a few decent wins on the resume, but you could argue that maybe he's not fought quite the level of competition that Canelo Alvarez has. So arguably, Alvarez has fought better competition leading into this bout. Just a quick look at Alvarez's resume. As I said, Alvarez has probably fought better competition. He's fought guys like Miguel Cotto, Hall of Famer, Erislandy Lara, notoriously difficult fighter to fight, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Austin Trout. He's been in there with some good opposition, has Canelo Alvarez, despite his recent reputation of being a ducker, It appeared he was avoiding this fight for quite some time, but in all fairness to Alvarez, he took the Austin Trout fight when Golden Boy didn't want him to take it, and he took the Lara fight when Golden Boy didn't want him to take it. So I felt the criticism. I'm not saying it wasn't just. I just felt it was a little premature. This fight is happening. It's not happening too late. So let's just give Alvarez some kind of credit for taking it. But yeah, I'd argue that Alvarez has fought a better competition all around. But it is what it is. It's irrelevant, really. Once they get in the ring, the better fighter will come out on top, and that's it. But stylistically, I think it's a really interesting fight. Both guys do things that I can see troubling the other guy. Let's start with Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin likes to apply pressure. He cuts off a ring extremely well, and he does this with his feet. He doesn't do it by throwing a bunch of punches. He doesn't waste much. He does it with his footwork. He'll take a step to the left. He'll take a step to the right. Golovkin rarely follows his man in straight lines, and that's one thing Golovkin does extremely well. And he's got a habit of trapping guys against the ropes or in the corners. And in most fights, he's had success of doing that. And the only fight he really struggled to do that was Danny Jacobs. And even in that fight, when he was walking Jacobs down, or when he was attempting to walk Jacobs down, he was still landing that jab consistently. So he'll walk you down behind a jab, which is extremely accurate. In terms of CompuBox, I believe Golovkin's jab is one of the more accurate jabs in boxing right now. So he'll walk you down, he'll cut the ring behind that jab, and he's a menace to deal with. And I feel this is relevant in this fight, Canelo Alvarez is not exactly a great mover. He's got quite heavy feet. He's not quick on his feet by any means. And in every single Alvarez fight, there are moments and there are lulls where he'll either sit in the corner or sit on the ropes and catch shots on his gloves or his elbows or his shoulders and try and counter back with shots on the inside. And he does that extremely well, but he's been doing that against guys who can't hurt him. Chavez Jr. against the ropes could never hurt him. Amir Khan could never hurt him. Liam Smith could never hurt him. Austin Trout could never hurt him. These were guys who were never going to trouble Canelo Alvarez in terms of punching power. So he could afford to sit on the ropes, and it's something he's done throughout his whole career, but he's never fought that big puncher who's going to make him sort of pay for that. The only puncher he's fought in recent years is James Kirkland, and there are a few times in that fight, although Alvarez was never hurt really, I felt there's a few times when Kirkland in the first and second rounds got Canelo's attention. And that was a badly out of shape Kirkland who split from Aaron Wolf before that fight and wasn't really prepared. So if Canelo sort of does that same habit of sitting against the ropes and sort of trying to counter, I wonder how he's going to fare. Because he's going to take punishment. Because if Liam Smith can hit you in that situation, you bet your bottom dollar Gennady Golovkin can. He's much more creative with his combination punching than Liam Smith. He's a lot bigger puncher than Liam Smith. He's a lot more accurate than Liam Smith. And Liam Smith was tagging Canelo against the ropes. You know? And that's one big worry instantly I have for Canelo Alvarez in this fight, is when he's against the ropes. He's going to be taking shots, and they're not going to be your average junior middleweight shots. They're going to be a fully fledged big punching middleweight. How does he deal with that? Because we've not seen it. We've barely seen him against a puncher at 154. So we've got no idea how he takes a shot from a true middleweight. We've got no idea. So the whole aspect of Canelo Alvarez sitting against the ropes does kind of worry me. I feel there's potential for him to take punishment in those moments, you know. But having said that, against the ropes he does counter very effectively, like I said. His uppercut off the ropes is very good. You know, he can throw combinations off the ropes. So when when Golovkin's got Canelo in the corner or on the ropes, he's not going to have it. He's not going to have it all his own way. Canelo will be throwing back, you know, and maybe that's something that does keep Golovkin honest. Maybe that is something that keeps Golovkin wary of those situations where he's not going to unload like he would against any other fighter, you know. So that's an interesting dynamic, because I think if Canelo does that, there's a chance he can ship punishment. But at the same time, it's not a foregone conclusion that Alvarez can't have success in those moments, that he can't counter Golovkin and he can't time him coming in, kind of thing. So when Canelo is on the ropes, I'm kind of uncertain how it plays out. I think Canelo will take a lot of punishment, but at the same time, I can see him getting some work done. The other thing is the Golovkin jab. How does Canelo take that away? Canelo does have very good upper waist movement. He's good at slipping straight shots. But can he consistently do that against Golovkin with the amount of pressure Golovkin's going to be putting him under? I'm not so sure. And we're assuming Golovkin's going to fight a pressure fight. That's what I'm assuming. You know, that Golovkin is going to try and walk Canelo down. If Canelo tries to fight on the back foot, you know, I'm uncertain how he deals with that jab, because he never took Floyd's jab away from him. He never took Lara's jab away from him. He never took Trout's jab away from him. And those are the three best fighters Canelo has fought, and he never took their jabs away. So how is he going to take Golovkin's jab away? You know, he's never really done it. So the pressure fighting of Golovkin, particularly when Canelo's against the ropes, is going to be a problem. And I feel that Golovkin's jab could also give Alvarez a lot of trouble. And obviously the last thing is, like, Canelo has never fought a true puncher at middleweight. I think Alvarez is a legitimate middleweight in terms of size. But him avoiding the middleweight division and fighting at 155 against guys who are not punchers and not really and sometimes not even 154-pound fighters, that might come back and haunt him. He has no experience of what it's like to get hit by a middleweight. And I wonder how he takes the power. From what I've seen, there's no reason to question Alvarez's chin, but at the same time, I definitely think there are some question marks there. You know, he's never been hit by a middleweight, let alone Gennady Golovkin. So there's certain things that Golovkin does in terms of the pressure, in terms of the jab, the power, that I just wonder how Canelo deals with it. And let's say Golovkin throws a complete 180 and boxes like he did against Lemieux, where he's really cautious and he just displays a jab, because Golovkin is going to be the bigger, longer man here. Let's say he does the same thing he did against Lemieux. Are we certain that Canelo Alvarez can outbox Golovkin from range? I'm not particularly sure, because I know Golovkin has a better jab than Canelo. If he sort of dictates it at range, I'm not sure Alvarez wins the long range boxing game. I'm not sure about that. You know, I personally feel Alvarez is better on the mid range. So if Golovkin is applying pressure, there will be definitely moments there for him to counter and attack. But if Golovkin fights a totally sort of different fight, like he did against Lemieux, I'm not quite certain how Alvarez deals with that, because like I said earlier, when Mayweather and when Lara kept it at range, you know, I personally felt Canelo looked second best, and even against Austin Trout he looked the same. And I definitely think Golovkin has that in his arsenal. I think he's good enough to outbox Canelo from range. So I definitely see the ways Golovkin wins this fight. As for Canelo Alvarez, I think there are routes for him to have success. One thing I noticed, and one thing I thought I saw in the Danny Jacobs fight, was the fact that Golovkin was feeling those body shots. One thing Alvarez does extremely well is he varies his punch variation extremely well. He changes levels. He'll start to the head and go down to the body. If Alvarez consistently sort of displays a vast array of combinations and he goes down to that body and he puts his shots together, I wonder how Golovkin deals with that. Because every time Jacobs actually let his hands go in that fight, Golovkin didn't look comfortable. Watch that fight back. There were times when I personally felt Golovkin was wary of what was coming back. And I definitely feel that Alvarez has the offensive capability of making Golovkin wary of what's coming back. He hits hard enough, he's got quick enough hands, and he's got good enough combination punches. Alvarez needs to work that body early, and he can do it. He's an excellent body puncher. You know, the hooks to the body are excellent. Alvarez needs to do that every single opportunity. Work that body. Try to halt that Golovkin pressure. And we've seen Canelo, work the body extremely well. One thing, although I felt he lost the Lara fight, it was a close fight, but I felt he lost. One thing I do feel that Golovkin done really well was working the body. I felt in that fight there were times when Canelo Alvarez's body work really slowed Lara down, and it was just the fact that Alvarez never really jumped the gun from that point. There are moments in the mid rounds, go back and watch that fight, when the bodywork of Alvarez really started to get to Lara. There was times in that fight in the mid rounds when Lara started to look really ragged. He looked really ragged at times. Alvarez has a good body attack. He needs to employ it. He really needs to employ it early against Golovkin. He needs to let Golovkin know he's there early. And he needs to get Golovkin's respect early by tagging him, whether that's to the head or body, regardless. He needs to get Golovkin's respect. He needs to let Golovkin know that you can't just walk through me. I might be shorter, you might be the bigger guy in terms of height and reach, but you can't just walk through me. There's something coming back here, and you need to be careful. He needs to make Golovkin have that mindset, and that's one thing Danny Jacobs did extremely well. but you have to question at middleweight and even 154. Does Canelo Alvarez have that power of Danny Jacobs? I don't think he does personally, but I do think Canelo Alvarez hits hard enough to get your respect, and if you take enough of his shots, it's going to take its toll. So Alvarez needs to make the most of his combination punching and body attack particularly, and he needs to get Golovkin's respect early. Another thing that could potentially help Canelo in this fight is the fact that I feel he has a better defense than Gennady Golovkin. I feel that Canelo has an underrated defense. He slips shots very well. He moves his body, his torso. So although Canelo has quite stiff feet and quite sort of he's quite heavy-footed and he's slow on his feet, one thing he does very well, he does slip shots and he moves his waist. He can sort of bob and weave and make you miss and make you pay kind of thing. I've seen Canelo make you miss and then counter with that straight right hand or counter with that left hook. He's a good counter puncher. He needs to utilise that in this fight. He needs to make Golovkin miss, and when he misses, you don't just make Golovkin miss. You've got to hit back. You need to make him pay, because it's irrelevant. If you sort of make Golovkin miss but don't make him pay, what's the point? You know, he's still going to keep coming. It's not going to put him off. He's still going to stay patient. He's going to do what he always does. Golovkin missing shots ain't going to faze him. So if you make Golovkin miss, you best make him pay. And Alvarez has the ability to do that. He's got a great catch and shoot. You know, pull back and then and follow through with a straight right hand, and that'll be open against Golovkin. I've always felt Golovkin is open for the uppercut. Alvarez has a tremendous right uppercut, particularly when he counters with it. So I feel that the creative punch variation of Alvarez, I feel that the defensive Alvarez and the counter punching ability of Alvarez will definitely see him have his moments in this fight. So I've broke down what I feel both guys can do. I definitely feel this fight could go either way, and I'm not confident in this fight at all. For the longest, I've always felt Golovkin will take this fight. But I've never felt that Golovkin walks through Alvarez. But I've always felt that, and I've never really been confident. But if I had a gun to my head, I would have always picked Golovkin to win this fight. But now I do doubt that now. I do feel that people are underestimating Alvarez a little bit, and they're underestimating his skill set. But yeah, I'm going to make my pick, and it's not confident, but I'm going to stick to what I've always felt, and that is a Golovkin win. Does he get the stoppage? That's the question. I think that Alvarez is going to get stopped for the first time in the late rounds. I think Alvarez is going to start extremely well. I think he's going to tag Golovkin. I think he's going to maybe even at times in the early rounds he might even light Golovkin up with combinations. But I feel as the fight wears on, Alvarez does have a questionable gas tank, and he's going to have to work as hard as he's ever worked before in this fight. This is not Floyd Mayweather, and although he lost every round in that fight, he never really had to work hard. He never had to dig from deep. In this fight, if he wins this fight, he is going to have to dig from deep. And I just question whether not whether Alvarez has it in him, because I think Alvarez has a lot of heart, but I just question whether his gas tank is up to standards. And he's going to have to expend more energy than he's ever done before fighting Golovkin. And I just wonder, as the rounds go on, I wonder if he's going to be as effective later on in the fight, and whether Golovkin's pressure just wears Alvarez down. And that's what I think will happen. I think Alvarez will start very well. I think Golovkin comes back into it and gains and wins by late stoppage. But that is not a confident prediction. But nobody likes a fence sitter, so I'm gonna go with a Gennady Golovkin late rounds KO/TKO. That's my prediction. I'm looking forward to this fight tremendously. One of the best fights of the year. One of the fights we all wanted to see. and it's happening. So credit to both guys. Looking forward to it. What do you guys think? Peace.